Hello everybody, sorry I'm about a minute late. But welcome to the chapter 11 and 12 discussion of Steps to Christ by Ellen White. My co-host is here, so let me just bring her on.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. How are
Good,
you?
good. No, I'm good. It was the first day of school today, so it was just busy, but it was for you as well, right?
Yesterday was the first day of
Okay,
school.
okay.
It
How did it
was,
go?
it was great. You can ask Iago. He's in the chat as well. How school went.
Tiago,
Uh,
let's go. Our school, Tiago. Let us know. We want to know from you, our school and work is in the fourth term of the year. Yeah, it's
fantastic.
just a bit crazy. I'm losing
Mm,
my voice a little bit because I strained it a bit on Sunday. So if it goes weird, then just ignore that. But besides that, I'm good actually. Work wasn't that bad today. It was just busy.
that's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear it. But
Yeah,
but
no,
what? Wait, what are you straining your voice? Sorry, my brother walked in, man.
no, it's good.
Why did you strain your voice?
Um, because Blaine was cycling on Sunday. So
Oh
for anyone who doesn't live in like Cape Town, we have an annual like cycling race called the August Tour or the Cape Town Cycle Tour, whatever it's called now. And my cousin was in it like 2 days ago. So we were
yeah.
like cheering him on, and I have the weakest voice. I can shout like about 2 words, and then my voice is gone. So before this, I was like steaming my voice and like taking stuff and whatever, but I think it's a lot better than what it was earlier. So thank you, Lord.
Yeah, no shame, man. I was also like thinking, yo, that's a lot of distance to cover on a bike. I wouldn't be able to do it. So, props to Blaine. Sure.
Yeah, and he did
But
really
yeah,
well.
no, that's good.
Tiago, it was terrible. Yeah, I think the fourth term, like no one's really into it. So, but I mean, it's less
Mm,
than 2 months. So don't hang in there. Hang in there.
yeah, I think it's all because of the exams and stuff, man. Like everyone's stressing, to say the least, about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking December holidays, December holidays, December
Yeah.
holidays to keep
Oh
me
my
going.
word.
Yo,
Just
sheesh,
thinking
that's
about
all, eh?
all the fun stuff to do in December. I feel like it feels longer than a week though, because I mean, so last week, this time, Yael and I was still on school holiday. And
Mm.
yeah, it's just, I've seen so many people and done so much, like compared to a normal school week, that it seems like I saw you like a month ago. But
It
yeah,
does feel like it just like time flew like so
yeah.
quickly.
And we're
Ugh,
already on
it's insane.
11 and 12, Yael. No,
We done it.
no,
We done it.
we
Felix, we
did
did
it.
it. Sure, can you believe it though?
Crazy. I
Crazy, crazy.
saw John Mark. Um,
Hello, John Mark's my cousin. Blaine's
yes,
Rachel's cousin.
yes, exactly. Cousins supporting cousins. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for Christmas either. Same. Like I need a good Christian holiday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Don't want to get too crazy, but yeah. Should
Mm.
we stop?
Yeah,
How long has it been?
yeah. It's like
Cool.
4, I think. Yeah, let's start. Sorry, I'm getting carried
Mm.
away.
Yeah, no, me
Um,
too. It's just been so long, but yeah. Let us begin.
yeah. Will you open for us and then I'll close?
Sure, sure. Okay, let's close our eyes. Little God, thank you that we could meet here again to discuss one of the best books, I believe, that was given to us through and inspired author. I pray that you would guide us in our discussion now, and that whoever's watching may feel blessed and may take something away from it. Be with us now. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's joining today, everyone who's going to watch later, and welcome to 11 and 12 semi-final.
11 and 12.
Semi-final.
We've done it.
It's a bittersweet moment. Yeah.
Bittersweet, yeah. That's a short book. I didn't actually realize how short this book was until,
I know. And it's like, it's an achievement because we almost finished an Ellen White book together with so many people. But I mean, I don't want it to be over. But okay, anyway, let's not get all sentimental right now. Let's get into it. Tell me what your initial thoughts were about these two chapters.
So, okay, chapter 1. My first thought when I saw the title came to my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Zeman, who spoke often about the power of prayer. And I even remember she had on a door like this little poster about like the power of prayer. So while I was reading that, I was sort of thinking of her, because she passed away, but like one of the best teachers I had. But I mean, and like the chapter itself, like prayer was just a good chapter because it was so encouraging. Like the big thing for me that stood out was like basically we have access to heaven through prayer, which is pretty cool if you think about it. Like you think it'd be way more difficult to get to heaven, like I don't know, some sort of time travel, space-time continuum. I don't know, some flash or something from the Flash, that you think would apply in the situation. But it's like it's so simple. It's actually just talking. So that was pretty cool. And then the second chapter, which was like dealing with doubt as a Christian, I also thought was like extremely relevant. Like if you look at today's world, skepticism about the Bible is quite common. And I mean, people have the right to question and to wonder, like, how do we know that this is actually true? But from a Christian perspective, it's important to know how to deal with questions and how to deal with self-doubt as well, because sometimes there are parts in us that don't actually how would you say that are sort of reluctant to accept what the Bible says. So to deal with that sort of aspect is also what we find in the book. But what are your thoughts? Do tell.
Okay, so chapter 11 and 12, so the privilege of prayer, and then what to do with that. So for the privilege of prayer, like you said, it brings us into like community, like into contact with heaven, right? And I think we all think that, like, life, I mean, either you pass away and you rest until the resurrection when Jesus comes, or you'll actually experience Jesus coming and being alive and stuff when the world comes to its closing. But it's like you said, it's a very nice thought to think that we don't have to like wait to be in contact with heaven. Like it's right there. Because, let's say heaven isn't that far away. It's really not that far away. It's just a matter of just not even speaking, like just thinking and talking to God, and before you know it, you're right there in His presence, and that's what heaven is, right? The presence of God. So, like a lot what you said about the privilege of prayer. Also, prayer, I don't want to use the word struggle, but prayer is something that I've found, maybe like complex is a good word, in my spiritual journey, and I'm sure it's like that for a lot of other people, maybe not. But a lot of people, I think, when they become religious, or when they come to Christianity at some point in their lives, a big thing is like, how do I pray? How do I talk to God? So this was a very good, it was a very good like chapter of guidance for me about prayer and what the circumstances are that you do it in, and so that's the privilege of prayer for me. What to do with doubt? Well, I enjoyed a lot because, like you said, we've all had doubt, and just knowing that you're not alone in it. Like everybody has doubt, I don't think that it's actually a religious experience if you don't go through doubt at some point. But then again, we spoke about the faith factor like so many times. Like even when you are having doubt, you still have faith. Also, that chapter is very nice because an area of like evangelism or Christianity that I like is called apologetics. For anyone who doesn't know what apologetics is, it's basically defending what you believe. So people like come to you with questions, and then you need to use the Bible to defend what you believe, to defend the truth, basically. So it can get into a debate some of the time, but I've never thought of her as an apologist, but I really enjoyed reading that chapter. So yeah, that's my overview of those two. Yeah, but I think we can get into chapter 11.
Cool. I mean, there's a lot, like chapter 11 was actually a bit of a long chapter, not too long, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Like, and I spoke last time about like the first line she writes in each chapter, just, it always like, hits the nail on the head. And I highlighted the first line again because I mean, it's just so brilliant. Because it's just good, like how could you not like acknowledge like good writing when you have good writing like this? And of course we believe it's inspired, so I mean it's brilliant. I'll read it if you want, then maybe we can discuss it a little bit. Okay. Through nature and revelation, through his providence, and by the influence of his spirit, God speaks to us. But these are not enough. We also need to pour our hearts to him, out our hearts to him. So maybe I'll just say like right from the get-go, you see, I think we touched on this in the previous discussion, but God makes every effort, through nature and revelation. Spoke about how God uses nature and how Ellen White uses nature in her writings to sort of help us understand God better. So, through every possible means, God tries to influence us with his Holy Spirit and speak to us, And then the responsibility line, I'll call it the responsibility line, comes in the next. He says, but these are not enough. We need to also pour out our hearts to him. So God can continue to speak to us, but it only makes sense if we want to actually get to know God, that we try and speak to him as well. That's like how conversation works. A conversation can't work if one person is talking the whole time, because you're not going to gain anything from that. There has to be some sort of a discussion, which is what God encourages. I think later on in the chapter she also talks about that. But yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, so like you were saying, the thought came to mind that like prayer is a discussion. So we're always told like what is prayer? Prayer is talking to God. But I think that it's a thing that it's a skill that a lot of people lack. I think I lack it a lot of the time. But like the skill of talking and listening and not just talking all the time, and also not listening and not even putting in your own input. It's a conversation, right? It goes both ways. And I think it's a very important skill to practice in your conversation and your socializing with others. Because when, I think sometimes we talk a little bit too much, and then we say that God doesn't give us his response, or that God doesn't talk back. But I think sometimes we don't give God like a breath to just say something, because we're so distracted in what we have to say, and we don't listen to what God is like very clearly putting out in front of us. So it's a relationship. I mean, a relationship with God is different to a relationship with a human being, but they do have some of the same factors in them. But it's like, it's not even 50-50, it's 100-100. You have to put in the effort for the relationship. It's never going to work if you don't do that. Like a lot of people think, oh, well, God loves me, so he knows that I want this, so he'll just give it to me. But God's also a God of free will, so he's never going to give you what you don't ask for, or provide you with the answers that you don't ask for. You need to have a conversation with him, because if he's just giving you something that you haven't asked for, then that's not free will, because he's not giving you like what your opinion is stating. So I think a lot of the time it's important to pray, but sometimes it's also important to be silent and to just try and listen to what God is saying. So yeah, out of that first little portion of the chapter that you read, yeah, I got that out of it a lot. Like it's a conversation, it's a relationship. Yeah, it's a relationship with God.
Maybe to touch on what you were saying as well. I think, okay, maybe a misconception about prayer is that it's something you do when you want something from God. It's like a wish granting thing. I don't know. But that's couldn't be further from it. I think she talks about this later in the chapter as well, where if you pray to God to give him something you want and you assume he's going to give it to you, that's not exactly prayer. That's presumption, she calls it. And it's not the intent of prayer, so that we could get whatever we want whenever we want it, because then there's no effort put in, there's no relationship behind it. The very point of prayer is actually just to build that relationship and to actually, like connect with heaven, to put it that way. So I think it's also, and then maybe another thing is that people maybe expect instant replies to what they've been praying for. I still remember in grade 2, my teacher, Mrs. Bikes, told me.
Shout out to all the teachers.
Shout out to all the teachers, all the good teachers out there. She told me in the class that God has 3 answers for prayer, and I'm pretty sure you heard this growing up as well. Yes, no, and wait a little bit. So and he's not going to grant us something or give us something, so to speak, that will harm us or be to our detriment. He's even when we are asking him for something, he's still thinking about our good, how it's going to affect us in a negative or positive way. And I think there's a certain aspect of trust that also goes into prayer. When you have that conversation, you must also say, okay, I'm talking to God, but this is a God who knows my heart and who knows what's best for me, because he made me and he's good and he knows everything about me. So I think, just to quickly add that in there, but I think that's something people maybe don't know about.
Like you were saying, this is a God, you just said, no, this is a God who knows me and who knows what's in my best interest. A lot of people believe in a God that is impersonal. We believe in a personal God. And the prayer that it's the opening of a paragraph. She says, prayer is the opening of the heart to God as to a friend. Look, I don't know a lot about all religions. Most of my knowledge lies in Christianity because that's what I believe in. But I think a lot of religions don't consider God to be a friend. Now, that's not to say that we disregard God's divine authority, because we don't. He's still our king. He's still our master. He's still our God. But it's a nice sentiment to think that God is your friend as well, because you're saying people go to God when sometimes people go to God when they just want to hear what they want or receive what they want to receive. When you go to a friend, like the point of a conversation, or like asking questions in a conversation with a friend, is to hear what their opinion is. Even if you don't agree with them, even if you don't believe in what they're saying, you are seeking out their opinion. And I think a good friend gives their honest and raw opinion, and that's what God does, right? He says, well, you're asking for this, but I don't think it's very good for you, and therefore maybe no, maybe yes, or maybe you just have to wait. A bad friend is going to tell you what you want and what you don't need, what isn't good for you. They're just going to tell you that it's fine, and you're going to go away thinking that it's okay, and it's going to get you into a bad place. And that's exactly what the devil does. I mean, Satan is in a way, he doesn't represent himself as a devil, right? He represents himself as a friend. And often we can fall into the trap of seeing him as a friend, not even knowing that it's him. And he tells us exactly what we want to hear and what we think we need. And it never gets us into a good space at all. It might be temporarily, you might live an amazing life on earth, but what's going to happen after us? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, God's interest is always the best, and because he's your friend, he wants what's good for you. He wants you to talk to him. but He also wants to give you His honest answer, and God can't lie to you. So I think you also need to, if you want someone to tell you that what you're doing is right all the time and you know that it's wrong, then I think you want Satan more than what you want God, even without realizing it.
Yeah, sure. That's a good one. That's to put it into perspective, like and I think a quick point. You mentioned like instant, what you want instantly, like instant gratification, and I think the Bible talks about long suffering, and I think that's also quite a relevant thing to prayer. Maybe is that um, struggling now may be better for you in the future. Whereas if you had everything you want now, it may lead to your detriment in the future. So it's like it's a tricky thing. But I think when God sort of, I don't want to say tests our patience because that's kind of somewhat like negative. But when He allows us to be tested, and He knows that we can handle it. He won't let us go through something that we can't handle because He knows what we're capable of. But like that sort of experience, of patience and long suffering, I think is a brilliant opportunity for you to grow in your faith. And it's also a brilliant opportunity to use prayer as your main weapon, because like we said, God may be using every possible tool to try to get you to listen to Him, but you also need to talk to Him because that's how you get to know someone. You talk to them. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I also think an important thing that I always think, so when we're taught to pray, I mean, you bring your request before God. And then, like we said, it's a conversation, so you also have to listen to what God is trying to say to you. But I think it takes a lot of like strength of mind to get into the habit of saying when you pray and actually meaning it, Lord, your will be done. Because a lot of people don't pray for God's will to be done. They pray for their own will to be done. And a lot of the time when we listen to prayers, and I'm guilty of it as well, it's just like a long list of what we want. And it's like, thank you, in Jesus' name, amen, done. And in Matthew 6, when Jesus is teaching them when Jesus says the Our Father prayer, He says, your will be done. And I always think like our Father is, it's a model prayer. So you can like recite it, but I think that your prayers as well, that or like your personal prayers that you aren't actually reciting, should have every aspect of the Our Father in it. So there should be a point at which you're saying, hallowed be God's name, your kingdom come, your will be done, give us our daily bread, forgive us all our debts, So I think that there's stuff that we can take out of the way that Jesus prayed in the Bible, because essentially every prayer that Jesus prayed was a perfect prayer, right? So the different aspects and elements I think we should incorporate into our own prayer. And the one that has always stood out for me the most is your will be done. And Jesus says it time and time again, your will be done. The Bible speaks about God's will being done. So yeah, I think that's a very important part of prayer that we aren't always taught when we little kids in Sabbath school, and at church, and not even always taught as like teenagers or adults. But I think it's a very important thing to think about, and also to pray, because you can be open and honest with God, right? It's a different kind of conversation that you're having. If I'm not feeling something that day, I need to be honest with God and say, I don't actually, as horrible as what it sounds, I don't actually want to be here talking to you right now because I don't feel it, or I don't actually want your will to be done, or I want my will to be done, but my heart is saying no, God will need to be done. So help me to be strengthened and help me to want what you want for me. So be honest with God, even if you aren't feeling it, tell Him exactly what you're feeling, because He can help you to obtain perfection. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I mean, you mentioned like the Our Father prayer, and we taught this like in Sabbath school, adventurers, it's like this the building block basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, the your will be done part is what makes the prayer. Like you said, it's no use, we're praying and then we're like, we'd really like this if it went my way. Like, thanks a lot. It wouldn't be a prayer to God. It would sort of, I don't know, it would be something that you really want to happen instead of considering that the person or the being that you're praying to is sort of like left out of the equation because it's basically become a wish list and not a conversation, So yeah, that's
it's
quite
sweet.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to see. Oh, okay. So then she talks in the chapter as well about like what happens to us when we don't pray. And a time of like I think that you should pray even when you don't want to, because we spoke about this.
Yeah.
Like you can't wait to be perfect and then come before God. You need to go before God to be perfect, right? Can't actually do anything like noble without Him. So
Yeah.
even when you don't want to pray, like we were saying earlier, go and be honest with God and say, I don't want to pray, but I need you to help me to have that wall in my heart. But she says, the darkness of the evil one encloses those who neglect to pray. And I think we've all been there at a point, maybe even daily, when it's like, oh, I don't want to pray. Like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Yeah, so we've all been there, but I think that even if it's a short prayer, even if it's just saying thank you to God or just saying, Lord, I need help, please help me. Like that's a prayer. That's speaking to God. And not all the conversations that we have in life are an hour long, like this one. Some of them are like 5 minutes long and we move on and we done speaking to that person. Sometimes it can be like that with God too. Sometimes it's going to be a long prayer. Sometimes if you don't have the strength to do that, it's going to be like a minute prayer, a few seconds long even. Maybe it's even just going to be one word. But I think that the importance still remains even when we don't find ourselves strong enough, because it's weird. I don't find myself strong enough sometimes to pray, but prayer is what gives you strength. So it's like being sick and saying, oh, I don't feel like eating, so I can take my medication to feel well. But the medication is going to make you feel well, so take it even if you don't feel like it. That's exactly how prayer works.
Exactly, yeah.
I just think like,
Okay.
sorry. I just think like, the Pharisees were in trouble of, praying publicly in these like long, tedious prayers. It's not about that. It's not about everyone hearing your fancy words. Or I think I might have read it in Acts of the Apostles, also by Ellen White, when she says that like the apostles um had to make sure that the way in which they spoke to people about God was like appropriate for who they were speaking to. So like don't use big fancy words. Like that's not what a relationship with God is about. It's about being real and honest, like I don't think that we should feel the pressure to be like fancy, like Shakespearean before God, like be real with him. He understands everything that you're trying to say. He just wants you to say it to him first. So yeah.
Exactly. No, you like it's actually really good that you brought up that point, because I was just about to bring up the point about prayer being more of a ritual more than an actual a conversation or something that actually means something to you. And I think maybe for the Pharisees it was at some point just a ritual for them. Something that they could just use, that they're like, okay, it's Sabbath, let's just go get this done and over with, sort of thing. Like, and then probably pride had something to do with it, because they were very thingy about how they looked, right? We know that, and that's why they were very they had a big announcement sort of thing whenever they were going to pray. But the whole thing about like I think prayer, which the thing about prayer is that every time I think it should be special, even if it's short, like you said. It should have some. It shouldn't mean nothing. If that makes sense. It should be sincere, and it should be something that like you really believe is going to work. Like, that's one of the conditions for prayer, right? Is you have to have an earnest belief that the person, that the God you're praying to is there. And I think when we make it a ritual, it loses that, just like it was lost for the Pharisees, because I think they were so lost that they didn't even realize that Jesus was the Messiah, or maybe they were too stubborn to admit it. Who knows? But I think like, we have to acknowledge, like this is a big gift that we've been given. Like, we're able to access the God of the universe through prayer. And I think if we fully appreciate that, and we have a sincere sense of gratitude towards the gift of prayer, it'll prevent it from becoming a ritual or something that we just have to get done and over, like something we have to just check off. Which I think I know I've fallen into that trap. Like, especially as a kid, when you're about to go to bed and then your mom knocks on your door and it's like, you have to pray.
Yeah.
Fine. They have to get out of bed now to kneel,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing. But now, thankfully, I don't complain. But yeah, I think that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah, like you were saying, talking about the Pharisees. Like, I think religious actions aren't always spiritual. Like, I think he speaks about in the next chapter that we're going to speak about. But you can pray and have the wrong intention to pray, or you can pray and like just like you said, it's like careless, or it's just a ritual that you have to go through. And that, I think that's a part of what Jesus was talking about when he said, there's going to be people who say, oh, well, we cast out demons in your name, and we did this and we did that, and we said that we believed in you, and at the end of the day, Jesus is going to say, well, I never knew you. And I always think, every time I speak about that verse, I think it's so sad that we can have so much potential, and we can have so much knowledge, and be granted so much knowledge from God, but if your heart isn't in it, then there's really no point. So yeah, also, sorry, what you were saying about, when you're young, you're like, oh, I have to get up now, get out of bed, say a prayer. I like that in this chapter, she talks to us about how we can pray anywhere. It's appropriate to pray anywhere. I think she said on the street, and like in a meeting. Sorry, I can't remember what she said, but she named like a whole lot of examples. And it's true, like I've been in conversations before when I'm talking about religious things, and I'll just say a prayer and nobody knows that you're saying the prayer, and that's fine. Or you can be in a text, and you don't have to say, everybody stop writing, I need to pray for 5 minutes. No, it's like, pray where you are. And that's why Jesus came, right? He came so that we didn't have to go to a temple and offer up a sacrifice to ask for forgiveness of our sins. We could just not even say, we could think it, right? And you'd be forgiven. Like when you talk to the Samaritan woman at the well, I think it was. And he said, I've come so that you can pray in spirit and in truth. And you can you can do it wherever you need to do it, and that's why I'm here. So yeah, I think like, a lot of religions, there has to be, and I'm not saying that prayer should be anything disrespectful. Like, there's you need to know, you also have to be in the right mindset no matter where you are. And you have to be reverent about it. But I think a lot of religions make prayer into, like you said, a ritual, and into maybe a bit of an unpleasant thing, because you have to be in a certain place or doing a certain thing, or and I think that just the beautiful thing about God is that it can be anywhere, anytime, and He knows your heart, and He knows what you want, and He just wants to listen. Like, that's what He's there for. He wants to be with you. It's not a ritual for Him either to listen to you. It's something that He wants to do. So on both ends, I think it can be something that He loves and that we love too.
No, absolutely. And I was just thinking now, like I said before, it's an amazing thing. And I think an example that just came to mind now, an excellent example from the Bible, must be Daniel. like that guy. For people who don't know the story of Daniel, like that guy is impressive, like so he was known, for praying 3 times a day, and he do it in front of his window. And longish story short, there was some people at the king's palace, because he worked at the palace as one of the advisors, I think. And he eventually he didn't make enemies, but there were people who didn't like him for his prosperity, and he was doing so well. So they basically set up this law that said you can't pray to anyone except the king. And Daniel, being a firm believer in God and a faithful one, still continued to pray. And they caught him in the act. They were like, "Gotcha." Okay, so into the lions, then you go. And God delivered him from that. The people couldn't believe it. Like, he was thrown into a pit of hungry lions. It's actually like, if you think there's no chance, but I think it's also from that story you can sort of get that God rewards faithfulness in your prayer. Because if he didn't think that what Daniel was doing was worthy, he wouldn't have saved him from the lions. But he did, and he could be a witness to others now about how great his God is. So that's also, it just goes to show the power of prayer. Like, my teacher would say, it goes beyond what we could ever think.
Yeah, and I actually like you've actually thought about that, but yeah, I like the example of Daniel that you gave, because it's also an example of, like, when life is easy and it's like all going happy-go-lucky, like, we shouldn't stop praying. Because the things that you do when times are easy, if they become like, I don't want to say habit because it's not a ritual, but I mean, when prayer becomes the first thing that you think of, when things are rough, you won't be as affected as everyone else around you, because you're not shaken as much as what they are, because you still have prayer, and it's going to be normal for you to pray, because when things were good, you were praying, and so when things are bad, why should that stop? You know what I mean? And I think as Christians, we are in that situation at points in our lives. Maybe we don't always realize it while we're going through it, but I mean, you'll see like how people freak out around. For example, the coronavirus, right? Sorry, I have to bring it up. Sorry, everyone. But it affected everyone. I think that's human nature. But I think that when you have something to believe in, and when you know that there's a God that actually has like personal concern for you, nothing is gonna get you down to the point that you can't come back up. You know what I mean? And I mean, it might get you down. I'm not saying that it won't get you down, but I don't think it's gonna get you down to like where there's no coming back from that. Or I mean, faith is always gonna be there if you believe in God. Even when you don't realize that it's still there, even when you think maybe you've lost it, it is still there. I think that everyone that finds the truth, whether they decide to keep it or lose it, it's still there at the back of your mind. I don't think that this is something that you can ever forget, really, you know what I mean? So praying when times are tough, but also praying when times are easy, because we don't know what the future is going to be like. But if it becomes a habit, or if we just fall into it immediately when times are tough, I think that it's going to be very beneficial for in tougher times.
No, definitely. Like, that's pretty. That makes sense. Like, you might as well start practicing prayer while things are good. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to do it while things change, and when things maybe don't go your way in life, throws a curveball at you. So I think, you make a very good point there about, I think that's what Ellen White also sort of touches on in the chapters, like constant prayer, consistent. It doesn't matter what time, it's, you just keep going. So yeah. Sorry, my dad just peeped in the room.
It's okay. When you're like on a Zoom call and you like see people and you're like, I'm just gonna act like nothing's happening right now. Just act casual. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry. I mean, can't remember what Zoom call I was in or something. I was like, sorry that there's background noise. And they're like, you're at home. There's supposed to be background noise. Everyone has this like idea that it has to be like you're in this like building with no one else in it. But we all know you're at home. Okay? Okay, we all know that someone has worn pajamas pants to like a school Zoom meeting. Okay, it's normal.
Yeah, there's no point to be ashamed about it. It's okay.
We all go through
Yeah.
together. But
Yeah,
I
man.
think that was the last point that I wanted to make on that chapter. I don't know if you wanted to carry
No,
on.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah.
I'll close with I'll close with this. It was at the end of the chapter, but she says, we should keep in our thoughts every blessing we receive from God, and when we realize His great love, we should be willing to trust everything to the hand that was nailed to the cross for us. Like you said, a relationship of prayer is a relationship of trust. So I'll close with that on that chapter.
Really well. Yeah. That's brilliant. But I mean, so now we move on to doubt. Rachel, do you doubt that this is, I don't know, do you doubt?
Do you mean am I human? Yeah, of course I doubt. I mean,
there you go.
You know, I think it's an attribute of humanity. I was talking to someone on Sabbath, this past Sabbath, and this person asked me, do you think that this pandemic is gonna, or when do you think that this pandemic is gonna go away? And
Sure.
I don't want to be a downer, but I said, look, I think that with like the prophecy that we believe in and stuff,
Yeah.
I think that it will get a little bit better. I do think that when we spoke about this last week at yours as well, but I said, but we also have to be real about it, and we need to take into account viruses and pandemics that have happened in history. So I said, I think the virus will always be with us, but I think at some point we won't be as like mentally affected by it as what we are now. And then someone else looked at me and he was like, no, I just picked up that part of your conversation, you're depressing me. And I was like, sorry, the virus is going to go away tomorrow. No one will worry about it. You can go now, strangers. But I mean, I think we've all been plagued with doubt at some point, whether it's like something maybe not as important like that, or stuff like religion. Again, like I said earlier, I think it's a little bit comforting to know that everyone goes through it. I definitely go through it. So, yeah, but also I don't think that it's going to be like a relationship without trying times. Like, you know, Jesus never promised that it was going to be easy. So if you're coming to Christianity for like ease, it's not going to be like, it's not.
Yeah.
You don't come to the truth for ease. You come to the truth for truth. So if you don't want to, truth hurts sometimes, but I mean, I think the truth can also save. Because Jesus was the truth. So So, but I mean, I think we all deal with that. I think that it's a part of your experience, and I think that it can be coming and going. But if we talk to God about it, then it can be eliminated. I do believe in that. Yeah.
Stim. Yeah, that's right. I also think so. Like, I definitely, like I doubt a lot, and I'm sort of a very questioning. I have a questioning personality, so I never. Sometimes it's harder for me to accept things for what they are. You know, I'm stubborn, I suppose, in that sense. But to my fault. But I think, like you said, you know, doubt is something that you work on daily. And when I think she says it in the book, where the more you study God's word, the more reassured you become in it. You know, I think, and especially, it's important to note, like we said in the previous chapter, you know, pray. If you don't ask for inspiration and you don't ask God to guide you through the scriptures, you know, then doubt can creep in, and it can really just eat you up and like cause you to second guess, you know, every line in the Bible, really. And I think maybe Christians, I don't say, I don't want to like cause trouble or whatever, but I think sometimes we get very arrogant.
Yeah.
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 You know,
Agreed.
we say, no, but we Christians, we have the Bible, you know. You know, my pastor said this and my pastor said that, you know, or this pastor online, you know, like, I don't know. They we become so arrogant about the truth that we have, which is a great truth and which is the truth. Um, and I think in our arrogance, we sort of uh, take it for granted, or becomes more susceptible to the fact that we can actually be tricked just as easily as anyone else, maybe. Because if we're not maintaining that, if we're not actually, what did you say? If we're not constantly trying to work on our relationship with God and read His Word, then I think we're at risk. And I think that's when doubt really sets in, is when you become comfortable with the knowledge that you currently have, and you're not trying to improve your knowledge base.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying that we can be a bit arrogant. I mean, this book right here, if you haven't heard of it before, it's called the Holy Bible, and it's about this group of people called the Israelites that thought that they knew everything, and then they ended up knowing nothing. And yeah, us Christians are kind of their descendants, so sometimes it sparks a bit, you know, in the personality. But again, I think that's why it's important to read about history, to read the Bible, so that it doesn't only teach us what to do, it teaches us what not to do as well. And I think that we can get very arrogant with what we believe, which, I mean, you know, a lot of people, and I think the Israelites, I think they had this big thing that, like, God says to Abraham, I actually want to see if I can get the chapter, but when God is making the covenant with Abraham, right, I'll bless, I mean, through you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. He said that, but he said, I'll make you into a great nation. Why? So you can bless other nations. It was never going to be like, I'll make you into a great nation and you guys are the only special ones and like everyone else is forsaken. It was always a promise to spread. It was always a promise to spread the good word and to spread the gospel. And eventually Jesus incarnates as Israel, and he comes to do what like generations of people before him couldn't do. So I think that we get very arrogant with, for the life of me, I can't remember what the verse is. It is Genesis 12. God says, okay, so he says, get out of your country, from your family. God is talking to Abraham. And from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And that's where the Israelites stop. And they're like, okay, we're going to be a great nation. We're going to be a blessing. God likes us to be the favorite. But then verse 3 says, I will bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you. And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. So it's not a covenant only between God and the people of Abraham. It's a covenant between God and the world. And I think we get very arrogant with verse 1 and 2 and we forget about verse 3. And like you can't do that. You can't just take bits out of the scripture and piece together your own truth, because there's no such thing as your own truth. Okay, as soon as it's your own truth, it's just lies. It's not the truth anymore. There's one truth, and that's God, the truth, God's truth. So yeah, so I think that we still make that mistake today, like the whole Genesis 12 dilemma. But yeah, it's not about that. It's about everyone, and through Jesus Christ, we're all sons and daughters of God, and of the seed of Abraham, which means that the promise is for everyone. So yeah, I think that we do get a bit arrogant at times, but there is hope. I mean, if Jesus came and could do what he did, then there must be hope.
No, absolutely. And the point you made about Abram was pretty good. I never thought of it in that way. You know, so I think, you know, is a good solution to not be arrogant about the truth we may have. I think if you're approaching someone who doesn't believe in God, and you go now and you like, and you're arrogant about it, you're prideful about it, and you like shove the Bible in their face, like, yeah, you don't have this, or whatever, you're not exactly going to change their mind. So I think there's a certain attractive quality, and I think that's what also one of the things that drew people to Jesus, perhaps, was the fact that he wasn't proud. He was humble. He's the king of the universe, and yet he came in such a humble way, and to reach people. And I think we ought to do the same thing. But yeah, it's quite fascinating. But it makes me realize that like all of these factors that we do in our daily lives, or all of the weaknesses that we have in our daily lives, like they all sort of come together, and that it all just forms to try and destroy our relationship with God, and it just tries to weaken us. But I think going back to prayer and using prayer to counteract doubt, it's so important.
Yeah, you're right there. Prayer actually counteracts doubt. So these chapters go very nicely together.
Absolutely.
I wanted to read this quotation. It's the start of the second paragraph. God never asks us to believe without giving sufficient evidence upon which to base our faith. His existence, his character, the truthfulness of his word are all established by testimony that appeals to our reason, and this testimony is abundant. I wrote in the margin, faith is not lack of evidence, because it's not. Faith isn't blind. A lot of people, I think a lot of people with like an atheistic worldview think that faith is blind, but it's not. It does depend on evidence, because I mean, God wants us to find the truth. So I don't think that he's just gonna, say, just do this and believe in me because I'm God and blah, 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 end of the world, finished. There's evidence for what we believe in, and not, I always say, even if you don't want to take evidence out of the Bible, you can take evidence out of your own reasoning. You can take evidence out of your own psychology. And this is why I like listening to Jordan Peterson, because he comes from the psychological perspective. But I mean, our own morality is natural,
Yes.
Thou shalt not kill. You don't need to read the Bible to feel that killing is wrong. You know what I mean? So I think
exactly.
That's a lot of work. So I think that the Bible, even if you don't want to take it from a religious point of view, what it's saying is going to resonate, and it's actually going to agree with what's up here. Because we do know right from wrong, right? We have morality. It's not only Christians that have morality. As human beings, we know what's right from wrong. Doesn't mean that we always follow it, but we do have it, right? That's our conscience, that's the Holy Spirit. So I think that you don't even need I don't want to say this wrong, but I think that your psychology can prove that the Bible is true. You know what I mean?
Trouble.
Yeah, you don't even need to be religious to see that the Bible is true. You know what I mean? It sounds weird, but if you think about it, it's kind of true. It's like our own feelings are telling us like there's truth to this. You should go on and maybe just like read into it a bit. So yeah. See there? There's buffering a bit. We good? You there? Can you hear me?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is playing jokes on me.
Oh, no worries, man.
I don't know what happened.
No worries.
Let me just... I don't know what's going on, man. This thing is it's so annoying. I'm so sorry. But no, I think I got like bits and pieces of what you said, but like I'll just I'll agree.
Cool.
But yeah. Let's go.
So yeah. So Yeah, so I mean, like I said earlier, this is kind of like an apologetics chapter. And you can come from, you can defend Christianity from a whole lot of perspectives. You can defend it from like scientific perspective, you can defend it from the historical perspective, You know, I mean, even linguistics has a lot to do with like verifying what people said, the psychological perspective, the theological perspective, the philosophical perspective. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways and means to verify that what you believe in is true. And looking into those ways and means, I do believe that what we believe is true. And I don't think that following blindly is ever the solution.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, and I mean, okay, I'm so sorry again. My brother and my father are like carrying a wood or something into the office. I'm so sorry. Okay,
It's okay.
for people who
Don't
don't
worry.
know, my house is under construction. That is why there may be noise, but
You know what
but
our grade two. Sorry, go on,
uh,
go on. No,
no, no,
sorry.
no.
So
You're gonna say so.
our teacher, because apparently today we're talking about teachers, okay? So our teacher
It's
in
one of
grade
the other
two,
chapters we've added in here quickly.
exactly. So Miss Garrett, shout out to Miss Garrett in grade two. She always used to. So the grade one and the grade two classrooms were like connected with each other. So the grade ones always had to walk through the grade twos to get to like the main area of our school and the office and stuff. So whenever people used to walk through, you know, like you're distracted, especially when you're younger. So she used to say,
Uh,
everybody stop. Look at the people that are walking through, watch them walk through. We used to watch all of them walk through. And then when the door closed, she was like, okay, now we're going on with the lesson. So if you need to watch your brother and your father walk through with the wood, you do that, man. Don't
I'm
worry
gonna
about
just
us.
focus everyone's attention on them, like carrying the batons in and stuff. We can all just focus, and then we can go back.
Yeah, man,
But I
you do
mean,
you.
yeah, yeah, no. But like, if I was listening properly, like the psychology, just to touch on your earlier point, of the Bible as well, is also pretty fascinating. Like, if you want to see more of the psychological view about it and like how that sort of plays into the main theme of the Bible, because I think if you actually look at it, it actually works. And I'd highly recommend checking out Jordan Peterson's lectures on the Bible series. Um, it's pretty interesting, pretty interesting. Yeah, so I think it's even incredible in that way, like how even though what the Bible says may seem straightforward and simple, it actually roots down to some sort of deeper psychological level that we as humans experience, which is insane.
Yes.
Like that is pretty cool. Like, and there's so many factors of the Bible where you may be doubtful a little bit, and then you read something and you're like, but like, how could that just be like man-made? Like it's just like how? Like it doesn't make sense. And I think I mentioned this as well earlier on, perhaps in the series, is that the entire Bible sort of contradicts man's original nature. Where Christ says, "Love your enemy." We naturally hate our enemies, or where we look after ourselves first, or like seek for our own selfish pleasures. Christ says, deny yourself, follow me instead. Pick up your cross, So it's all sort of challenging stuff that we have to face. And I think for me, that's one of the things that sort of helps me with my doubt is like, it just, for me, the odds of like the Bible being written by man, when it's such a contradictory man nature book, it's just that's for me like pretty insane. So I was like, nah, I can't believe it when people say that this book is like worthless or that it doesn't have any value or meaning, because like if you honestly take time to read it, you'll actually learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. And I think that's when when skeptics say, like, I've read the Bible, it's ridiculous, that sort of thing. But have you really read the Bible? Like, have you sat down, contemplated it, thought it over, and have you asked God for the guidance in it? Because when you're reading the Bible, you ought to acknowledge the author. You have to acknowledge that this book comes with authority. It's not just another fairy tale book that you read when you were like 3 years old or whatever. So I think that's something to consider.
I think even if you are reading the Bible and you don't believe in Christianity or you don't consider it like a holy scripture, consider the people that do. because it means a lot to people. It means a lot to you and I. So if you are going to read this book and you don't believe in it, then just still have respect for it. Never lack that kind of respect for the people, because if it's so important to some people, then maybe it's worth checking out. This is gonna end in 10 seconds. So do you want to come back? This is because this is a good discussion.
Yeah,
okay.
let's come back.
Okay.